Hello, everyone. Welcome to the episode of the BG Show. I'm here again with my friend Adam. We're here to do a big mid-season review of House of the Dragon season two. We took a couple episodes off. Figured to be better to just do kind of like a mega review here. So we'll do a mid-season. Maybe we'll do episode by episode. We'll see how it goes. We'll definitely do a big one at the end again. So go watch our first one for episode one. As always, we'll do big picture thoughts first, and then we'll do big picture thoughts first, and then we'll get into kind of the episode breakdown. So I'll go first. I thought this was clearly the best episode of the season. Um, I didn't have it spoiled, but I kind of knew it was coming. This is the last episode that critics saw, so no one has seen beyond this point. This is the episode that they really were hyping up. I obviously thought it was really good. Really good action. Obviously, I'll get into like my issue with the episode, which is Rhaenys' decision, which I know was book accurate, but I still thought was really fucking stupid. Um, but yeah, so what were your thoughts?
They did make a few changes from the book in that exact scene. I actually like the changes that they made. I thought they actually filmed the whole Rhaenys turning back. I thought it was pretty good actually. I think the I think she's just you could tell by her face at the end. Granted, obviously she was very sad when Meleys was going down, but she just looked out of it. She looked tired.
It was almost like a kamikaze mission.
Yeah, she knew it was a death sentence, especially knowing she was going up against Vagar. So I mean, like she knew most likely she was not coming out of that alive. Um, but the the main thing is with her, she she did it well. I think why she did it is all the she was just tired and exhausted. I think she was tired of just all the fighting, all the patrolling. She knows obviously. Spoiler alert if you haven't been able to put it together.
Murph.
Al- Alan is, Corliss's son or bastard, if you will. That's so I think, and you saw a big contrast difference between her and Catelyn Stark. Catelyn was happy to send John to the wall. Rhaenys
Yeah.
said, why don't you raise him up? Don't keep him beneath the tide. So I think she just felt like it was time to go, give it all I got, and she gave it, and she knew she was fucked when it was 2-on-1, but she did well. She did a good job with Sunfire, and they did a great job with that battle. We'll get to that obviously.
Yeah, I don't know, it just bothered me. Like, yeah, I guess for if you would say she was kind of done, it makes sense, but
I mean,
it was heroic, but it was just very stupid. I just like you already killed the king or damaged a king, took down one dragon, like just get the hell out of there.
here's the problem with that, and I was thinking on it. If she leaves and Aemon follows her, she's got to have to fight anyway, and Aemon's probably going to follow her.
I read that I mean this could be wrong. I was listening to another podcast and they said her dragon is the fastest, so Vagar wouldn't be able to catch up to her dragon. But that could be wrong. Is that true?
I mean, Meleys is definitely faster at this point. Definitely. And you saw that. Like, Vagar went all the way down to the floor, to the ground, rather. She had trouble getting up for a bit. That scene was great. You saw how big her fucking feet were. So, I mean, she's definitely faster, but so was Arix. That was Luke's dragon. Granted, significantly smaller and in the heavy range and winds and not as experienced. The thing that annoys me, if you just want to get into the nitty gritty about the fighting, is even Rhaenys, unless it's written somewhere else separately, they're all dragon riders, obviously, but they none of them have experience fighting with dragons, except Daemon. Like Daemon actually has experience on Dragonback, like fighting like that.
Yeah. So I guess that was. We'll go with my next question. It's like if you just keep blowing fire at the dragon, you can kill the rider, but it's not going to have any effect on the dragon, right?
So I'm going to point. I'm going to, and I made this point in our season 1 review when we saw them in Pentos, and Daemon goes through the fire that Lena blew, and Daemon does not get burnt. If you remember that scene, it was like
Yes.
all of 10
The
seconds.
Targaryens could they are they all immune to fire or just some of them?
So if you want to get really deep into it, like their blood is special, and forget all the lore and everything. They're able to withstand certain diseases. From it looks like Daemon clearly is inept of dragon fire to a degree, at least in that one little puff. Danny clearly is. if you want to take your stab at Aegon, I don't know if you saw the trailer yet, so I'll wait for you to answer before I say anything.
I usually don't watch the trailer to the next episode.
So, do you think Aegon's alive?
Um, I think he is, but I don't think he should be.
Well, okay. Well, whether you think that or not, I mean, you'll see obviously in the episode coming, but we'll get to episode 4. I think the first thing we should just do real quickly is just get to go through 2 or 3, the main things, and then obviously the main things with 4. I think as great as the last episode was, and clearly the dragon fight was the best part, other than Damon, in my opinion, with Harrenhal. The Harrenhal scenes are really cool. Like they're horror film like, they're really crazy. We'll get to that. But the dragon fight was really the main part of that. And it was obviously great. But I think episode 2, honestly, was just as good. Rhaenyra the Cruel. And if you remember that, that's after Blood and Cheese. So they obviously we spoke about Blood and Cheese. I still stand by what I said. I don't like what they did. They should have kept it to the book. It would have been way better viewing, gagging and bounding Allison, having the watcher. But the second episode, you know, Aegon's all pissed off, and Otto is like, "We have to do a public funeral." When they did that, and we got to the part where I guess the wagon was stuck and it was like shaking back and forth. I thought for a second the
The
head
head
was
was
going to
coming
come
off.
off.
Yeah.
I did you think the head was going to roll off?
Yeah, I thought that would have been too like
I was saying that.
that would have been jumping the shark if they did that. That's I think not because it's a kid, I just think it gets too that's more to like horror movie-ish. But yeah, I guess two of the things I really like about the dragons is one, the scale they do a really good job of, which even the Godzilla movies struggle with, is they do a good job of showing how much bigger certain dragons are than the other ones, so you can clearly tell the power scaling difference. And I also disagree with people who are saying there aren't enough dragons. I think if they put dragons in every episode, it would totally take away from the. They're kind of using it almost like the T Rex in Jurassic Park. They're not kind of overdoing it, but when it comes, you know it's coming and it's big. So I think if they had battles every episode, that'd be a mistake.
So here's the thing, and I'll compare it to Thrones, obviously, for obvious reasons, of course. Is Thrones? It's a huge, massive war story, and you're in it every day with all these different characters. Whereas Fire and Blood, in this part of it, you're kind of written through a history book, and you have to kind of fill in the blanks. So I personally think that one of the things that makes Thrones so great is they don't overdo it with the dragons and everything. I mean, they barely did any magic in the show. Like if you think about it, they introduced the Children of the Forest, and then the Walkers, of course, and dragons, of course, and people coming back to life. They did add magical elements, but they didn't really add the lore like really deep. Here they're starting to add it a little bit more. It's a little deeper if you know what to look for. But you know they have to understand that if you just like you said keep throwing dragons at you, it gets stale. So they can't do that. And this whole series, and now you're starting to see it, and you saw it with the last episode, which was really annoying, which was episode 3, where she goes to King's Landing at the end, which I really didn't like. Is she's like needed closure. Okay, fine. She got her closure. As dumb as it was, she sneaks into King's Landing, but she goes to King's Landing, gets the closer. You're halfway through the season already. You're already in episode 4, and she's denying that they can spare war, and now it's finally war. It's like, lady, your son has been killed. You took one of their kids, whether you don't want to admit it, you're a part of it or not, and now you just sent out, one of your closest allies and a dragon rider and lost both of them in
Yeah,
Rainy Sand.
Rhaenyra is definitely not a good guy. I mean, you might like her better than the other side, but she's not. I wouldn't call any of them good guys.
And it's funny you said that. It's because I read a comment somewhere, and I think it was on Twitter, and it was so right. It was, can we all agree that both Team Blue, Team Green, and Team Black both hate the poor people and the small folk? And that's definitely captured. Like Rhaenys doesn't kill any of them at the end of season 1 when they made that horrible change. She kills a ton of small folk. Here, Vagar falls from the sky, kills a ton of small folk. Meleys falls on the castle, kills a ton of small folk. So it's really and the one part that they're actually doing really well that I think they're going to expand on is like they showed Hugh the Hammer and they showed Ulf. That was the guy in the bar claiming he was a Targaryen bastard.
Yeah. Oh, because they're going to be riders, right?
Well, if you've, I
Maybe.
mean, well, looks like you read
Well,
that.
no,
I
someone speculated like they wouldn't be bringing in Targaryens unless, or that any Targaryen they bring in could potentially be a rider, which
Well,
makes
you
sense.
have it's
With
pretty easy
one's
to piece
done.
together that there's more coming because, in season one, Daemon sings to Vermithor and he points out again this season all the dragons that they have waiting to have riders. So, I mean, there's going to be obviously more coming, spoiler alert. That's why, like, even though they didn't really show the battle, if you think about it, they showed the dragon fight. And that's also partially why I think they only went 8 episodes this season, is all the money is going to the dragons. And it's really paying off though. Like you can see the difference between all of them, the size difference when they were doing the fight and they were hurling and fire at each other and clawing, and then Sunfire had the fucking blood come out and the boiling blood fall on the soldiers. Like that was unbelievable, and that definitely cost a pretty penny. And to make, like you said, the differences of the dragons, like that requires a ton of money, but they're nailing it. And they did a really good job at that fight because the fight even talks about like the sun looks like the skies looking like a sun. And they did capture like a little bit of like a sun fireball, like a sunball, a fire up there of the dragons spitting flame and clawing at each other. So really, really top notch shit on their end. So really, really impressive. But the main thing that I really think that most people need to are talking amongst themselves, obviously other than the queen who never was that dies, is a was aiming for Aegon, and was he going to kill him at the end?
Yes and yes.
Oh, your thoughts were that okay?
I
Because
think yes and yes. I mean, like I don't see any reason. I mean, yeah, I don't. I think obviously he wants to be king. I think that's the whole point of that scene. Um,
well, it
yeah, I
goes
mean,
back. It goes back obviously all the way through their childhood. They're obviously very, very different. But in the episode before, Aegon, he's looking at his Kingsguard and like they're not behaving well. He like looks at them, gives them a dirty look, and then he's at the, bar later, basically. And lo and behold, he's looking to get one of the squires laid, opens up the room, and there's Aemond, and he's laying naked with the mistress lady. And he's giving Aemon shit because this is like the first lady I guess Aemon ever slept with. And then next episode in the small council, Aemon starts speaking High Valyrian, and Aegon is like, "Whoa, I don't know what to do right now."
oh yeah, they also that was one of the things is that he spoke English to his dragon, and Aemon spoke
Huge,
Valerian.
yeah, very very big thing. So like that's like the equivalent. Like Aegon obviously knows High Valyrian because he has to speak. He did speak it a little bit in season one. But it's probably like picture back in the day in high school learning Spanish or French. Like high school level, you can barely know a few words. You haven't used it in a long time. So he's speaking English and everything. But I did think like that was actually I mean, it's not funny, but it was kind of humorous from a certain character standpoint. I really love the actor doing Aegon. Like he's been unbelievable. He sees Aemon and he's like, "Oh, thank the gods," and the
Oh
next
yeah,
second he's like, "No." It's like
yeah, he's
that
fun.
was really, I think like that was funny. But they did a good job. They put the Valyrian steel armor on him. That was the Aegon Conquerors. That was nice. But you could definitely tell, and I think also because in the book, Aegon, it's written Aegon, Aemon, and Cole were all in on the plan to get one of the dragons. And in the show, it clearly was only Aemon. And Aegon comes because he's embarrassed, he's drunk, so he's drunk dragon riding. He comes on in, and he's going up against Meleys, gets his a little bit rocked, and then Aemon comes in and completely fucking roasts him alive. I think he was trying to get both, to be honest. I don't think he cared. I At the end though, I'm going to assume he was trying to kill him though, because no one was around him, and why was your sword unsheathed unless you were fighting someone to get there and there was no blood on him? So it was an interesting throw in by the show. I liked it.
Yeah. And so we have 4 episodes left. I guess where we stand. Um,
Well, I think the other one main person we have to speak about, we didn't really talk about him much, is Damon. You
Yeah.
know,
I mean, his thing is good. It's pretty cool, but um, yeah, I feel like at least from like a TV show making standpoint, they just don't want him anywhere near these battles because then he either has to win or lose, and they don't want him either
well,
losing.
here's the thing that they're doing with him, I think, is episode one, he does blood and cheese behind Rhaenyra's back. Episode two, Rhaenyra and him have the fight, and he basically goes away. But they don't hit each other. There's no violence. And if you remember in that episode, it ends with Cole and Allison with their people are calling it their 50 Shades of Green instead of 50 Shades of Gray moment when she's
Mhm.
slapping him. So you have that. So you have that contrast. Then next episode, Damon gets to Harrenhal, and they're doing a really good job. Like he comes in with Caraxes, it's raining, the castle looks hilarious, it looks great, and they gave Laris a great line in this past episode because Aegon looks at him because now he's on this officially on the small council as Master Whispers. He's like, "How do you not know that castle is yours?" And he goes, "That castle's more crippled than me," and that was funny as shit. He doesn't care about the castle. Same thing with like Littlefinger in Game of Thrones. Like he's the current Lord of Harrenhal in the current story, and he doesn't care about it. But in any event, Damon's there, and I thought that was great. When he finally gets there, he knocks out the one guard. He busts in. They're eating dinner. It's like six people, and Simon Strong bends the knee immediately to him, and he's having him say "Your Grace" instead of "Your Prince." But with the current episode, and specifically Alice, because in the first episode they give her one line, because you have Damon's like horror dream, and this is what I kind of said before, and this is what's going to kind of bring it together is like they didn't go deep into the lore and Thrones. They kind of gave a little bit of it, but if you didn't really read up on it, you might have looked at the shit that Bran was doing and have no idea what's going on. And the White Walker story is still open ended at the end of the day, really. But they they're starting to go into the lore, and I think Damon was in front of the weirwood tree, and you know the weirwood tree. It's very it's old gods. It's if you don't like know the lore, and that's why I think it's important to discuss it. Like I think because the theory that might be going, and it might be true, depending on what Alice gave him. So if you remember in Game of Thrones, when Bran reaches that cave, do you remember when he's in that cave training with that old man?
Yeah, I think so.
That old man is Bloodraven. Bloodraven is the fucking goat. He's a Targaryen bastard. He's like 100 years after this current story. He will hopefully appear in Duncan Egg. That's a separate story that they're
How many
doing.
years is like the first episode of Game of Thrones from right now?
So the first episode of Game of Thrones is like supposed to be 298 AC.
What's
The
AC?
cur- Aegon's conquest.
Not this Aegon,
The first Aegon, the Conqueror.
who already happened. Who was like their
Aegon the Conqueror
he
after the conquest.
so
The
he's going to
first
like
Aegon.
establish the line. Okay.
Yeah, after after Aegon landed in Westeros and like Cotton made it, they established the calendar as one AC, two AC, fine, whatever. So they go, he goes, he conquers. But the thing is with what were we just talking about again?
Aegon's conquest and the years.
Right before Aegon's conquest in the years.
Um, I don't even know. All right,
Good job.
reset. But
Well, no, it was with. Oh, okay, I know where I was going with it. I had a long train of thought, but I knew I had it matched all together. The old guy with in the tree, Blood Raven. So he's a Targaryen bastard, and he might appear in a Duncan Egg that's coming up. He's the last Green Seer, and if you remember in Game of Thrones when Bran gets to the cave, do you remember he's with three people:
yeah,
Mira, Jojen.
Hodor.
So Jojen, he dies in the cave, if you remember, or at the cave.
Yeah.
In and in the books, and I think they show it in the show, but they don't really show it. the Children of the Forest are basically the theory is they're killing Jojen and draining his blood, and they're making this weirwood paste to enhance Bran's powers. And there's a lot of evidence for it. That's another time. I think Alice is giving Damon the same weirwood paste because he's starting to have visions. And if that's where they're going with it, Damon might be the because everyone wondered who's the Green Seer before Bloodraven.
Oh, you think it's
So
Damon?
if that's where they're going with Damon, because that's where I'm thinking is like, why are they having to give him visions and dream sequences? Because they've never done that in Thrones except once. The only dream sequence they ever done that I can remember is Cersei having the flashback of her meeting the witch and getting the prophecy of the Valancourt, which they never even experienced, they never explored. That's the only one I can think of.
Have we ever gotten like a battle scene with Damon where he's with the sword? Because remember they didn't do the crab feeder last season, and they were supposed to do that, right? And now this season he's not really had any fights yet. Did he?
No, they haven't shown anything because they didn't really show Crab Feeder fight. When he took off Vamon's head, it was unexpected and,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
he did that. Yeah.
but I mean, that's not really a fight. So, I mean, they're going to show him fight, of
Doesn't he
course,
have a
at
special
times.
sword?
He has Dark Sister. So, the
Isn't
two
that the best
main,
sword?
I mean, you can argue Dark Sister or Blackfire. They're both
Who has
Valyrians.
Blackfire?
I believe Aegon does at the moment.
Oh, interesting. And that
Yeah.
dagger that he picked up, that's what was that? I remember that being something.
So they added this, which was nice, and I think they'll tie it into the book, I guess, and wins if it ever comes out. But that's the cat's paw dagger that Joff gave to kill Bran in Game of Thrones, and it's the dagger that Viserys had, and that's remember when he tells Rhaenyra when he's heir, the prophecy is on the dagger. It's inscribed on the dagger, because one of the things that happens is you can kind of put it together is now, only, I guess you can say, two and a half people know about the White Walkers and the prophecy. Rhaenyra knows, and she told Jace last episode. She finally told him of the prophecy. Alicent just knows Viserys mumbled something, and Rhaenyra was like, he told you about the Song of Ice and Fire, and looked at her like, what the fuck are you talking about? Aemond, he just got the dagger and he knows Valyrian. So if he actually holds it to a fire for whatever reason, he'll probably understand what it says. So the big thing is if the only trace of the prophecy is the dagger, that's the connection to the current story because that's the whole point of the Targaryen heir. Viserys was explaining to Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra was explaining to Jace, it's bigger than the throne. It's about the fight against the Long Night, the White Walkers. So
Right.
that's why Rhaenyra was trying to not fight. But it's very that's why I think they have to go more into the lore because if it is really she's feeding him shit and she even says to him like you're sleeping on a weirwood bed and she says like this castle was built around a weirwood grove. Like if you don't read the books or get into a podcast that goes into it and you're just like the casual fan who just watches every Sunday, you're saying to yourself, what the hell is this so important about? So I think they need to go a little deeper into that, not too much. But Damon will have his time. If you remember, he's trying to build an army, and he picked Harrenhal specifically because it's the biggest place to get an army and house them. And if you recall, this episode he finally had the lords come. You have to remember in Thrones they would have like they would probably show like a day or two of the journey, like from Harrenhal to River Run or River Run to Harrenhal, whatever it might be. This, they're just waiting an episode and then it's coming, and you just have to know that, like, okay, a month or two went by. Because that's basically the timeline right now. And you saw, like, he calls Oscar Tully because Grover and Oscar, if you know your characters of anything else, you'll be able to pick up the other. Grover and Oscar. Grover is an old man who can't do anything. Oscar is the next guy up, and Damon and like basically he's like, is Grover ready? He's like, no, he's old and sick. He's like, all right, can you go and like call the army and the banners? He's like, I can't speak with his voice. So Damon like, all right, can you just kill him? Like he's telling a kid to kill his grandfather,
Oh yeah,
and
that was funny.
and then you finally had House Blackwood. He came, and I think that was Willem Blackwood. He's the regent right now because the current Lord of Blackwood is not old enough. But he basically said, like, my father like stood with her Rhaenyra and fought for her. And if you remember in season one, that small little skinny kid who killed that older guy in Storm's End, that was a Blackwood.
Right. Right. Right.
So they finally, like, the Greens, just like from a strategy standpoint, Cole, this was definitely his best episode in terms of like where he is. Like, he devised the battle plans, he got everything, he saw everything, he did it. He was right on going to Rook's Rest because Aemon made the point they can cut off Dragonstone. Then he sees Aegon come out of nowhere. He's like, this is not part of the plan. What the fuck? And instead of like freaking out, he kind of just like rouses the troop. Like, the king is with you. Like, he's here. He's going to fight with us to get them ready. Obviously, doesn't go well for Aegon. Some of them die. And, the Team Black is winning. Like, that was a win for Black. I mean, as much as damage was done, if Rhaenys kills Vhagar, the war's over right there.
Right.
That's like, so, but it's a little weird. Like, and they have to like keep that, and I wish they did mention it at least once or twice. Like, even Aemon, like, you have no experience in dragon battle, so like it's kind of a little like okay, I've never done this before. Like, they've ridden dragons, that's fine, but it's
Yeah.
another thing to fight them.
Or even like, I feel like it's dumb. They're going after, they sent someone in to kill the kid, and we gotta go soon because we're running out of time. But, um, and I know like it's not in the books, but I'm just saying from like a character standpoint, like you can't kill the dragon, but you can kill him. The number one person they should be trying to be killing is Aemond, even before this, because if they can kill him, then that dragon either can't be ridden or is just kind of in disarray.
I
Forget
mean,
killing the kids. That's who Damon should have sent them to kill.
you are right, and if you do recall, Daemon did tell him, "You're going to Blood and Cheese. You're killing Aemon Targaryen." And then they asked him, "What happens if we don't find him?" And he gave him the look, and
Oh yeah.
they didn't find him because he was with the brothel lady. But the
Oh,
other,
they were going to kill him.
yeah, they were
Oh wait,
100%.
I don't know. What am I talking about? Yeah, yeah, never mind. Sorry. I thought they were. I thought their goal was to kill. Well, I was thinking their goal was someone else. I don't know why.
No, they were instructed to kill Aemon, and they wound up killing Jaharis. But the other main thing that
All
is
right, because Aemon killed. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now I remember. Okay, okay.
the Eric versus Eric fight.
But it
That
was just a revenge thing. It wasn't a strategic thing. It wasn't like let's kill him because he rides the biggest dragon. It was like let's kill him because he killed our son.
it was
It would have just been a coincidence.
it would have been very useful if they had him killed and
Yeah.
named more. But what did you think of Eric versus Eric, the twin fight?
Um, I thought it was good. It was a little bit. I mean, it was a little bit confusing, obviously, to tell who was who, but I think that was the point of it to add suspense to it. So,
That was the whole point, and you knew who won at the end because he at the end he says to her, "Your Grace," and then falls on his
oh
sword.
yeah, that was raw too. That's like a nasty way to go out. But
Well, he couldn't live with himself. That's my thinking, but that's that. I think the other main thing is that we just have to discuss is Otto versus Aegon in that before he names Kristen Cole Hand. That was such a good scene, and Reese Fonz is doing an incredible job.
oh yeah, I was thinking. I always make a Star Wars point, but I don't know why they can't cast someone like him to either be a Jedi or a Sith. He reminds me of like could play like a young Count Dooku or something. He'd be really good. But yeah, it's hilarious just to see him because I
You
just
think
keep
of Little
thinking of the
Nicky
or of I think of the replacements of
or
him just being
yeah, because
shirtless,
he's the kicker.
but that's what a beard does and a British accent. You can do anything. But yeah, he's really good. I think he's my favorite part.
Really, you like Otto the best?
Well, he's like maybe I'm only saying that because he's probably the most normal one. The most normal one on Thrones always. I mean, he's not a good dude, but the most normal one always like comes out kind of like looking good. And it was Rhaenyra until this season. Now it's probably Otto.
I don't think he's normal though. I think
He's
he's
not
very
normal, but he was at least was like I guess when the rat catcher thing he got mad and he
well. He
doesn't want
also
to.
fucking regretted putting Aegon on the throne. He's definitely not like Joffrey. He's bad. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong,
and he
but
pimped
he's
out
like
his daughter, so he's not
yeah,
exactly.
he's not a like I would honestly say the most normal one if I had to pick. of like the main characters, I would
Corliss.
probably say is Corliss at the
Yeah.
moment. I mean, as much as I love Damon, Damon is not normal by any means,
And he's got
especially.
the best nickname too, the Sea Snake. That's my favorite nickname.
And I'd like to see, you know, with, when I mean with next episode, it'll be really interesting to see how Corliss takes that death because he was
He doesn't
obviously
have a
very.
dragon, right?
He does not have a
But he
dragon.
could ride one, or he can't.
He's never been able to claim a dragon, and he's
But he is a
always been.
Targaryen. No.
It's not that he's a Targaryen. It's
Why does he have? Why does he have that hair? Or is that?
it's he has Valyrian blood.
Uh,
So that's the main thing. And if you remember from Thrones, that pirate that was with Stannis and Davos, Salador San, he was black, and he's also from Valyria. So it is a true thing. I mean, in the books though, the Valyrians they look like Targaryens.
yeah. All right, guys. I think that about wraps us up. That's a good review. Thanks for coming on, Adam. We'll see what we do next. Maybe we'll cover some other stuff. Who knows? But thanks, guys, for watching. Like always, subscribe. If you're just watching the show, we did all season one, so go back and watch that and watch our premiere review. Thanks, guys, for watching. And as always, see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.